Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. God has given us unlimited treasures in His Word. Every time we open it, we can discover a new treasure or admire an old one. What will we find today? Here's Carla Early with Treasure Hunt in the Word.
To every good thing, there is a but. Satan makes sure of that. He doesn't want us to come to Christ, but once we do, he tries to use people and circumstances to distract us so we won't grow. A new Christian friend of mine got saved, then ended up having one thing after another that kept her from going to church. When she found out that the enemy was trying to get her away from church and knowing the Lord better, she got mad and determined she would not let him keep her from church anymore. In the book of Acts, as Satan saw God's church growing by leaps and bounds, he knew he couldn't let them go unchallenged. He used an old temptation that still works today: jealousy. He filled the high priest and Sadducees with jealousy. He told them that they were losing their influence over the people as more and more joined Peter and the apostles following this dead carpenter. So they threw the apostles in prison. Now, it doesn't say which apostles, but certainly the leaders. That didn't last long, though. An angel opened the prison doors and miraculously freed them. Instead of hiding so they wouldn't be imprisoned again, the angel instructed them to preach openly in the temple. The first thing the next morning, they were back in the temple teaching like nothing ever happened. A little later, the high priest called a council. All these pious Jewish leaders gathered and ordered the prisoners to be brought. But they couldn't find the prisoners. The prison was locked, the guards were still there, but no one was inside. The Jewish leaders were quite perplexed. Then maybe somebody glanced out the window. Wait a minute, there they are, preaching in the temple again. Everyone crowded around the window, and sure enough, they could see a large group gathered around the apostles. The captain of the guard brought them up, probably by asking nicely, since they were afraid the people would be angry if they just went out and grabbed them. This time around, the apostles had the upper hand. They had defied the council's warnings, and the Jewish leaders were powerless to force them to stop preaching. The fact that their preaching involved implicating the Sanhedrin and killing the Messiah just added insult to injury. "Didn't we strictly command you not to teach in this name?" they said. "And look, you've filled Jerusalem with your doctrine and intend to bring this man's blood upon us." Now, the apostles didn't have to try to bring Jesus' blood on them. They had done that themselves at Jesus' trial before Pilate, when they said, "His blood be on us and our children." Look at Peter's reply. He said, "We ought to obey God rather than men." Now, that's something we have to deal with frequently, especially when we know we should stand up against something that we know is wrong, whether it's at home, in the workplace, or even at church. There's God's ways and there's man's ways, and we've got to choose. Peter gave the Sanhedrin another chance, offered them repentance and forgiveness from God. But they didn't hear him. They just got madder. Then God used Gamaliel to diffuse the situation. Though Gamaliel was a Pharisee and not a Sadducee like most present, he was a famous teacher that everyone, including the Sadducees, honored. Later we meet one of his students, Saul, who would later be called Paul and become an apostle to the Gentiles. Gamaliel warned the council to be careful what they did with these men. He cited a few examples of other men who had started movements that died down after their leader was killed. Gamaliel said, "Let them alone, for if this plan or work is of men, it will come to nothing. But if it is of God, you cannot overthrow it, lest you even be found to fight against God." I wonder if he thought about this statement later when this Christian movement didn't go away. They took Gamaliel's advice, though they did have the apostles beaten before releasing them. This only caused the believers to rejoice that they were counted worthy to suffer for Jesus Christ. They realized the Sanhedrin could do nothing to stop the gospel. The next day, They were back in the temple, boldly preaching. Do we have that tenacity, or do we cave at the slightest pressure, give in or give up? Do we realize that the enemy wants us to quit? If so, that should give us the determination to keep going, knowing that means that we're doing something right.
You can contact us at treasurehuntintheword@gmail.com. We'd love to hear the treasures God has given you through His Word. You can listen to other episodes at our website, which you can find in the description below. Thanks for listening, and remember, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.